Welcome to another edition of Horse Center, everyone. I am Brian Zipse, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Shifman. How are you today, Matt?
I am good, Brian. This is one of my favorite shows of the year, Brian. But I guess I have 52 of them every year. But anyway, that's the first Derby list show that we do each year is a favorite of mine. And I was looking back, Brian. We had some pretty good horses on that list. We had Fierceness and Dornoch and Muth and Nisos. So let's see what we can come up with for 2025.
It's way too early. Folks, I want to put this disclaimer out here. I told Matt it's way too early, and he said, no, we got to give the people what they want. They want a way too early Kentucky Derby list. So that's what we're doing this week. Having fun with some of the two-year-olds, some of the most promising two-year-olds we saw this year. How many will be around for the Derby, remains to be seen, but let's, see where we go with this, Matt, let's have fun. I'm glad that you love this show so much. It makes me happy when you're happy. Here is our number 1, 2, and 3 on our way too early Kentucky Derby rankings. Wow, there he is, Matt, Citizen Bull. How could we have anybody else but Citizen Bull as number 1? The first thing I wanna say about Citizen Bull, though, is not about Citizen Bull, it's about Bob Baffert. Baffert's back in the Derby, Matt.
He is back, Brian, and he's back with some good horses that we've seen already, and he's I think got a lot of other horses that we haven't seen, and I think for the first time, Brian, we got a horse on our list that hasn't even run yet.
You are giving too much away, sir, too much. Let's talk about Citizen Bull. Citizen Bull, 3 for 4, as you see there. He finished 3rd when beaten in the Del Mar Futurity. That was his only loss. But at 2 turns, Matt, Citizen Bull is perfect, winning the Grade 1 American Pharoah, and of course, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile a few weeks ago. Son of Into Mischief, out of a Distorted Humor mare that's good breeding. This was a $675,000 yearling. Frankly, though, I thought he kind of had the race his own way in both of those two-turn races.
Yeah, that I agree. He certainly did in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but I don't know if we can knock him or make that a particularly significant negative against the horse, but because that's the way it was, and he did it out front. Um, Maybe the other jockeys were taking Baffert for granted because this that winner was what 16 to 1 or something, Brian, which in retrospect
15.9 to 1. 15.9, Matt.
that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah, no, I was a little surprised how high his odds were and how much higher he was than the favorite preferred Baffert in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. We'll talk about him too a little bit later. But Citizen Bull is out of an unraced mare, but he still brought $675,000 as a yearling, a good-looking son of Into Mischief. Showed promise in 2 sprints, winning his debut nicely before that 3rd in the Del Mar Futurity, and then he got out there on the lead in both of his races. As of right now, he's the horse to beat. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he comes to the Derby as not the top Baffert or not the at least the top three-year-old coming into the Kentucky Derby, but right now, he's gonna be your two-year-old champion, and we see no reason to knock him off our number 1 in our list. Now, number 2 might be a little bit of a surprise, but here's the Breeders' Cup Juvenile favorite, Matt. East Avenue, let's say he was favored for a reason in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile?
Yeah, that's for sure because he had looked very impressive, winning the Breeders' Futurity as a prep race and winning his maiden special weight at Ellis Park for Brandon Walsh. And right out of the gate, he in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it was a disaster for East Avenue. He pretty much lost all chance in that race, and had a significant impact in what we talked about with Citizen Bull getting loose on the lead, because East Avenue had been a horse that had run really well out on the lead.
Yeah, yeah, very little speed in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was a surprise, and one of the surprises was East Avenue wasn't out there, but you explained it. He stumbled badly right out of the gate, never got into the race, his 3rd lifetime race, he's going out to California, it was a lot, and he wasn't able to overcome that, obviously, and finished way back in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but like you said, Ellis Park Sprint, Grade 1 going 2 turns at Keeneland in the Breeders' Futurity, very impressive. Also a really handsome, well put together individual. The breeding says classic horse here, Medagliadoro. Dance music, the Ghost Zapper mare, his dam is an unraced mare, but she was well bred, as most of those Godolphins are. This is a Godolphin homebred, of course, for Brendan Walsh and East Avenue. We're very willing to give him a draw a line through that Breeders' Cup Juvenile and put him high on our rankings. And Matt, we don't have to wait long for another Godolphin Juvenile to show up on our list because there he is at number 3, Sovereignty. Matt, do you remember the maiden race at Saratoga on Travers Day when I turned to you as soon as the race was over and said all 4 of those horses are good horses?
I'm not sure, Brian.
You don't
Your memory's
remember?
always
Okay.
better than
Well,
mine.
it was Tip Top Thomas, it was Rookie Card, it was Key Waited, and it was Sovereignty rolling down the stretch. And I turned to you up there, in the press box at Saratoga and said, "We just saw 4 good two-year-olds right there in that maiden race."
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm remembering now, Brian. You are right, and that was a significant maiden race, and kind of a key. I'll use the term key race. Kind of a key race for our Derby list that we've got here.
Yeah, yeah, we have half of the 4 on the list. Let's talk Sovereignty, though. Sovereignty, another Godolphin homebred, this time trained by Bill Mott. Bill Mott, probably a trainer not known for getting his horses, geared up, too much for their debut, but he came rolling down the stretch in that sprint in his debut at Saratoga, the key maiden race. I'll call it a key maiden race for sure. Rallied for 4th, came back just missed against another good horse, a Chad Brown horse named Prater in his 2nd start, and then he got 2 turns. 2 turns came in his stakes debut, still a maiden, and the Grade 3 Street Sense was a powerful win where he rallied by the field and won absolutely going away. Sovereignty looks, this son of Into Mischief, like a horse who, like Churchill, likes 2 turns. It's a good looking horse.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. All those things you listed are good, are strong reasons to be have a horse as a Derby contender, and to be that high up on our list at number 3. Another into mischief, the second of 3 into mischiefs on our list. I think into mischief at this point has sired 2 Kentucky Derby winners.
Yeah, and we're talking about that Godolphin blood, not Godolphin homebreds, of course. Sovereignty was also like East Avenue, out of an unraced mare, but the mare is a daughter of Mushka, and we remember Mushka being a very nice mare. So a lot of good blood there, and certainly classic breeding for Sovereignty. All right, that's 1 through 3. Let's move on, Matt, on our Kentucky Derby. Way too, or we admit it, this is way too early for a Kentucky Derby rankings list, but we're doing it anyway. Number 4, there's Bob Baffert again. Bob Baffert Gaming. I mentioned before I was surprised at the chasm between the preferred Baffert horse and the winning Baffert horse in Breeders' Cup Juvenile. The preferred horse was Gaming. He went off at 6-1 in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and he didn't run a bad race. He chased and never gave up in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. It was a good performance for Gaming, who is a son of Game Winner for Baffert of the Del Mar Futurity, beating, as we mentioned, he beat the number 1 horse on our list, Citizen Bull, in that race.
Yeah, and the Breeders' Cup Juvenile then became his first try around 2 turns, and he chased, and he was clearly second best. well ahead of the rest in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. Won by 5.5 lengths in his debut. The Del Mar Futurity was relatively easy, a length and 3/4. Only raced at Del Mar in those 3 starts, but not a bad two-turn debut for Gaming. We think of Bob Baffert with all these expensive horses, and I guess you could say Gaming was expensive. He was a $250,000 two-year-old in training, but he actually sold for $40,000 as a yearling. So, obviously, he showed some talent there that Baffert saw as a two-year-old. His mare was, so what's her name? So Stylish, a Johannesburg mare, was a, runner in Ireland. So, I don't know. Gaming, it's a question, but I think there's enough pedigree to think that gaming can come back and gaming can be a horse who is a viable horse at two turns next year. So our second Baffert, and we're only through four horses. The next horse on our list wasn't in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, Matt, but he's made waves and he's still making waves in the two-year-old division. A Saint Elias, we're familiar with that stable. Saint Elias homebred rated by Merritt, son of battalion runner, and he's 3 for 3, Matt, and he's gonna run again. He's scheduled to run again in a couple weeks in the In Reality, race of that, Florida, Stallions series they have at Gulfstream Park. He's never left Gulfstream Park, but he's been impressive.
Absolutely impressive, Brian, running in those Florida bred races or Florida stallion races. He broke his maiden by almost 10 lengths. As you mentioned, a homebred by St. Elias and owned by our friend and friend of HorseCenter, Vinny Viola. Um, there have been a number of nice horses that have done this kind of thing in Florida, won their first three, four, five races in this series. I'm trying to remember another one recently. I think it name started with Awesome, maybe.
Yeah, awesome, of course. I think, Awesome Runner on the Philly side, Awesome Feather on the Philly
Yes,
side.
yes.
Um, I always think back to Smile, but that's going way up way too far, and Smile probably was, best at 1 turn. But rated by Merit, will need to prove it at 2 turns because all 3 of his races are sprints, but they're fast. He's won them by about a combined 20 lengths. He'll get that stretch out to 2 turns, like I said, in a couple weeks in reality. But, rated by Merit looks for real the way he's running these races so far in Florida, and those came, I guess, at 6 furlongs. 2 of them at 6 furlongs and then 1 at 7 furlongs, all fast, all easy wins. Number 6, maybe a horse not a lot of people know about yet, Bill Mott, second Bill Mott on the list. This is Tux, and, I hope you remember, I don't know if you'll remember because she didn't race all that long, but Fancy Dress Party, a daughter of Munnings, was a talented filly. I think she won 5 of 6 lifetime with some stakes wins in there. I think she won a stake at Monmouth Park, in fact. She was fast, but Tux gets distance breeding from Tappet, Matt. It's an interesting combination there in the pedigree, and I liked what I saw from Tux in his debut.
Yeah, and actually, a fancy dress party was a grade three winner, Brian, not just a stakes winner for Bill Mott. Another one of these very well bred homebreds, this one from LJN Foxwoods.
Yeah, LJ and Foxwoods, they're excited, and I actually talked to, their bloodstock, agent and partner, Alex Solis, the second Alex Solis about Tux, and he said this horse just has beautiful conformation, unbelievably perfect conformation. They've, turned down big offers for Tux. So far, 6.5 furlong debut race at Aqueduct. Mott doesn't, as I mentioned, doesn't usually gear them up for his debut, but he chased pretty good fractions there, and then he powered home late to win by 3.5 lengths at Aqueduct, so we expect to see a lot more from our number 6 horse on the list, Tux. Matt, we're halfway done. We're only doing 12, Derby dozen if you want it, for these way too early rankings, but 12 is, what we decided. This is our consensus, between Matt and, we're only doing 12, but we easily could have done 25 and had some real fun.
Probably could have, yeah.
Let's get to our next horse on the list, and it's gonna be number 7, so we'll open up a new page here. 7, 8, and 9. Who are they, Matt?
There they are.
Who the heck is number 7? I've never heard of this horse.
Well, Brian, we certainly had never heard of this horse. This was the horse who, in the first Kentucky Derby future wager of this year, was listed as the number one horse because the horse didn't even have a name at that point. The horse didn't even have a name up until about 3 or 4 days ago, but kind of piqued my interest. And I texted Bob Baffert to say, uh, "Hey Bob, does this horse have a name yet, or is it going to get named?" And I didn't hear anything from him. But 2 days later, I got a text from Baffert saying he was just named today and was named Barnes. This is a horse that was a $3.2 million yearling purchase by Amir Zayden, who has had great success with Baffert, and he decided he would name the horse after Baffert's longtime assistant, Jimmy Barnes. I don't know, Brian. I'm guessing they're not going to name a horse that they're not sure about for Jimmy Barnes unless it's a good one. And I guess we missed the boat if we didn't make a future wager on this horse because he ended up 99-1.
Yeah, maybe so. Barnes. Well, let's talk about that name because people were starting to call him Arabian Pharaoh, and that didn't come to be as his name. And I think Zidane even mentioned, maybe we'll call him Arabian. I remember last year, I'm sorry, 2 years ago, where Zidane had the two big prices at the Saratoga yearling sale. This was actually number 2. The other one went for $4 million. I believe he was a Curlin. This is an Into Mischief out of a uh, American Pharoah mare, of course. And at the time, I remember reading that they said Baffert had to have this one. When he saw this horse, he just said, "Wow!" And Barnes was impressive then to go for 3.2 million, and he has been impressive working out. I saw his latest work, video of his latest work, going 58 from the gate, and this is a smooth moving, scary looking horse who's never made a race. So yeah, why do we have him on the list if he hasn't made a race? That's how likely we think that Barnes is gonna be a good one, and I think people in the know that Barnes is gonna be a good one. We have to see when he comes out on the racetrack, but the workouts are pointing to look out for Barnes when he's ready to make his debut, certainly not. All right, number 8 on our list. If Bob Baffert is known for finding the best expensive horses, Kenny McPeek's become known for finding really good horses at a bargain, but I hate to say it, this one was not a bargain, by McPeak. This was a $310,000 yearling, a son of Blame. I love the name of the mare of this horse, Render Judgment, his, broodmare sire's Commissioner, and, the name of the mare is Barbara Gordon. Do you know who Barbara Gordon is, Matt?
I'm gonna take a stab, and I feel like I remember Commissioner Gordon being is that it from Batman?
There you go. Barbara Gordon is the commissioner's daughter. Uh, horses too, but, Barbara Gordon was Batgirl, the
Ah,
commissioner's
yes.
daughter. She became Batgirl. Anyway, Render Judgment, the horse out of Blame and Barbara Gordon, has looked really good in his 2 starts. Maybe not flashy like a lot of horses on this list, but the $310,000 yearling purchase has rallied nicely in both his starts, a 7 furlong maiden at Keeneland, and then a maiden race. He rallied for 2nd in that Keeneland race, I should say, then he rallied to win a maiden race at Churchill with very little pace. He came from off the pace to win that. He's had a really nice work since then, and I would suspect that we're gonna see render judgment in the Kentucky Jockey Club in a couple weeks.
Wouldn't surprise me. That's how Kenny McPeak works when he's got horses that are ready to run and doing well. He runs them. So, yeah, coming up soon is the Kentucky Jockey Club, a points race for the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, an important points race as it is at Churchill Downs, it's at 2 turns, and this horse, like I said, not flashy, but he looks like a horse who should get better with distance. I'm waiting for a Son of Blame or Daughter of Blame to become a real, real big thing. I just like Blame as a sire, and, Render Judgment could be the one off those 2 performances. Like I said, a nice work. Look for him in the Kentucky Jockey Club soon. We can't dismiss East Avenue after the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. I don't think we can dismiss a few others. I think the Breeders' Cup Juvenile was a bit of a weird race with a moderate pace, and some horses didn't run their best, one of them being Chancer McPatrick, Matt. The son of McKinsey looked so good before then.
Yeah, absolutely, Brian. And we remember those impressive performances in the Champagne, in the Hopeful, in his maiden special weight at Saratoga, where he was a deep, deep, deep closer in there. He'd get out of the gate well, but then was content to settle at the back of the pack and make a big run. And to me, I can't dismiss Chancer McPatrick because that isn't quite what we saw early in the race from him. He was much closer. He was not last in the. He ran into a little bit of traffic. From what I heard, the Chad Brown said after the race that the rider said he seemed a little bit lost to be looking around, and maybe it was because he was having to go 2 turns. Maybe it was because he was in contention or with other horses early on. It was just a different kind of race, a different kind of performance for Chancer McPatrick. So I'm going to give him another chance down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he deserves it. There's nothing about his breeding that says to me that he won't handle 2 turns. We'll see. Maybe he'll be a real specialist at 1 turn rallying, but boy, those races at Saratoga, 2 of them, including the Grade 1 hopeful, and then the Champagne at Aqueduct, going a mile. He sure looked like a legitimate horse. In fact, he beat good horses throughout in New York, and he had a lot going against him as it turned out. We knew he was going out to California for this first time. We knew he was going 2 turns for the first time, but then, yeah, you talked about him being a little closer early, but the pace was slow, and unlike his stablemate Sierra Leone, who got the pace he wanted in the Classic, Chancer McPatrick got anything but the pace he wanted in that Breeders' Cup Juvenile. We will give, Chancer McPatrick another shot, and I think he is still one of the better two-year-olds we've seen. He's gotta prove it at 2 turns now. All right, Matt, we're in the home stretch. We're coming up to the last 3 of our dozen here. Way too early, Matt. It's way too early. Let's do it. Number 10. Number 10, Showcase. Showcase has not been seen. Maybe he's the forgotten horse, Matt, because he was impressive, was this $300,000 yearling when he came out earlier this year.
Yes, absolutely. And we can't have an early Kentucky Derby list without having one from the barn of Todd Pletcher. Here we are with that. This is an Uncle Mo out of a mare that that was placed in graded stakes races. Yeah, Showcase came out a little bit early in terms of the way 2-year-olds are being run, or the top 2-year-olds are being run, winning maiden special weight in the spring at Aqueduct, and then the Saratoga Special um, uh, at Saratoga. So an early start. Maybe Pletcher is giving Showcase a little bit of time now, a little bit of time to grow and mature, and no doubt he will be back on the Derby trail. I would guess most likely in Florida or in New York.
Yeah, sometimes you do see horses that come out early and then disappear the rest of the two-year-old year, come back good at 3, and Showcase certainly is eligible to do that. I think there is concern that he could be more of a one-turn horse than a two-turn horse. Uncle Mo is such a good sire, though, that, probably he could do anything, so we'll wait and see. Buy, Sell, Hold, you mentioned graded stakes placed. She was a stakes winner in her second race of her life. She was precocious. She won her first 2 races, including the stakes race, and then didn't win after that. So you wonder about Showcase. Maybe he's got that precociousness of the mare and won't be a real classics horse. But on the other hand, he won that maiden at Aqueduct so easy. He won the Saratoga Special very impressively. He passed horses doing it. It's never been farther than 6.5 furlongs, but Showcase will definitely be one we look forward to seeing come back when he does make it back. No works back yet, but it's getting late in the year, and like Matt said, look for him in Florida early next year. Key maiden race at Saratoga, Travers Day. We talked about it with Sovereignty. Tip Top Thomas could have made our list. Maybe even Rookie Card could have made our list, but instead we have Key Waden. Key Waden, a son of Instagrand, a first crop sire. Instagrand, of course, was a talented son of Into Mischief, Matt. Um, 2 races 2 good-looking races for this one.
Yeah, and this one is out of a mare, Nothing But Heart, who was just a fantastic producer. 7 horses to race, 7 horses that are winners. 2 of them were placed in stakes races. They all had lots and lots and lots of wins. This is kind of getting close to being called a bargain at $140,000 for Chad Brown. So was third in that key race debut that you mentioned, and then won his maiden special weight at Aqueduct at a very, very, very short odds.
Yeah, he did win that race. I think it was 1 to 5 after, he wasn't bet all that much in that debut at Saratoga. The word wasn't necessarily out. You mentioned the mare is a producer. She never raced, but she has become a good producer. Key Waden just missed by a head, went 3rd in that key maiden race, Saratoga, and then won, I guess the margin of victory wasn't by all that much when he won, going 7 furlongs, his maiden at Aqueduct, but the 2nd horse was 10 lengths ahead of the 3rd horse in that maiden. So, even the 2nd horse behind Keewaydin maiden win, might be a nice one too. We wanna see more from this one. So 2 Chad Browns here late in our list, and, we could have certainly had Prater on our list too, the horse that beat Sovereignty 2 starts back in his maiden win. And number 12, I had Jonathan's Way on my list. I couldn't put him off after how impressive he was winning that debut performance at Saratoga, where he got a terrible start and still won easy. And then I thought a good field was in the Iroquois, and he won that easy. In fact, horses have come out of the Iroquois and won impressively since then. For whatever reason, he didn't have it at the Breeders' Cup. First time at 2 turns, first time in California. I was surprised he didn't show a little more speed, but, he finished 7th, beaten about 7 lengths, just never really ran that day for whatever reason. I'm willing to give him another shot as well.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Brian. His 2 victories leading up to the Breeders' Cup were very important. And folks, if you remember, one of our Breeders' Cup shows was a horse that Brian liked a lot going into that race.
Yeah, yeah, I was wrong about that one, but Jonathan's Way is still a horse that I think could do a lot. Questions about a mile and a quarter, possibly for Jonathan's Way, son of Vekoma? But we'll see. Right now, good enough to be on our list at number 12. So there it is, our way too early rankings now for the Kentucky Derby. We have what, 5.5 months, 5.5 months to the Kentucky Derby. Let me get a parting shot from you, my friend.
Yeah, we got 4 or 5 more Derby prep races in this calendar year before we move on to 2025. I think it's a nice list, Brian, with 3 into mischiefs, 3 from Bob Baffert, 2 from Bill Mott, 2 from Chad Brown, and 6 horses that have already won official Derby prep race. So Stay with us. That's my point. Stay with us on Horse Center on the road to Kentucky Derby. You guys all know the drill. You've been there with us before, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and there's one horse on the list who's never raced yet. Crazy, crazy, but we love it. We love having fun here on Horse Center. Hope you enjoyed their way too early Kentucky Derby rankings on Horse Center. We'll be back, of course, next week with another show on Horse Center. And until then, good luck. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next week.